everyone, welcome back to my Arcade Basics series. And the next thing I think I should go over is the JAMMA standard. And if you're thinking about getting one of these and you've been looking at certain boards, you may have noticed some of them say JAMMA compatible, and you may be wondering what that is. Basically, in the early days of arcade gaming, each machine had its own pinout. It was wired completely different from all the other machines. And at a certain point, when arcade owners wanted to replace different games in their arcades without having to bring in an entirely new machine, what they decided to do was come up with a standard way of wiring it. So you could just hook up your game board to the machine and you could change it out for any other game board and it would work just fine. And that's the JAMMA standard. It came out in 1985. And most games after that will use it. There's still a few stragglers after that, but especially by the 90s, pretty much all the arcade games will use the JAMMA connection. What I'm going to do in this video is we're going to take a closer look at what the connector actually looks like, and I'll talk to you about what the different pins do, some problems to look out for, and I'll also show you my 6-in-1 JAMMA Switcher, which if you're a little limited in space like I am and you want to hook multiple things up, a JAMMA Switcher can be really useful. So let's take a look at all that. Okay, so here we have the basic JAMMA connector, and as you can see, this is actually an extender. We're just going to use this for demonstration purposes, but these can be really useful if you have boards outside of your machine, or in my case, if you have a Dreamcast or a Saturn on the outside of the machine and you need a little bit more wiring. It's sometimes easier just to get some of these and sort of daisy chain them together than to wire a longer harness yourself. But in any case, this is basically what you're going to see on the inside of the machine that connects to your board. And I do want to say that you should be very careful when you're plugging these in and make sure you have them in the right direction, because if you have this backwards, then you can do damage to your board. So be certain that you have this the right way. Now, that being said, once you know what all of these different wires do, this isn't really a terribly scary thing. Basically, you have your power on the left, and I like to keep one of these around. You can probably find it in a million places on the web. So this is just a basic listing of the pinout, and even though I know the pinout pretty well, I still use this every time, and the reason is because I don't want to mess anything up. So basically, you have your grounds on the end here. And then you have your +5, your -5, and your +12. Not all your boards are going to use these, but you do need to have those in there. So then the next one here, which is pin 7, I believe, yes, pin 7 and H on the other side, is your key slot, and that's generally going to be blank, and you can tell on the board itself which way the connector should be facing by looking for this key slot, if it has it. If it has the key slot, then you know your power is going to be on this side, and then your different button settings and all of that is going to be on the other side. So you can plug this guy in with the power leading over to this left side. Also, on a lot of boards, you probably won't be able to see this, but on this one there's a little 1 down here and a little 28 there. And if you're looking at this connector with the connector part facing up, your power will be on the left. This will be 1 to 28 here. So if you have a 1 over here and a 28 here, then you know to plug it in this direction. So that's the basic of how it works. On this section, you basically have your different player controls, and on some of these, a lot of them, it's kind of hard to tell depending on where it was made, if you've got a lot of these characters that you can't read. But you can see, I don't know if you can see this up there, but you can see the +12, -5, +5. You can also see 1, 2, and 3 here, and this is actually buttons 1, 2, and 3. And you've got player 1 on one side and player 2 on the other. So that's basically how it works. If you want to hook up a 6-button cab, something a lot of people don't know, which is actually on this little list here, is you can actually wire your 6 buttons through here. You don't have to use a kick harness. And the way you do that is you put button 4 on 25, which this one already has a little white wire there on pin 25. and you can use this for your Neo Geo too. This is really common. You can just go ahead and put a fourth button in. Button 5 you can put on 26, which is this guy here, and then button 6 you can put on pin 11, which would be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 would be this blank one right here. So that's what I've done in my cab. It didn't, 100% work, but that's a good option if you want to do it that way. So now that I've shown you the basics of how a JAMMA connector works, I'm going to show you my 6-in-1 JAMMA switcher and give you a little bit more information on that. Okay, so here we are with our 6-in-1 JAMMA switcher, and you can get these online in several different places, but basically what you do is you plug your 6 boards into these slots here, and then you plug your main JAMMA connector from your cabinet in to the end here. And it comes with this nice little remote. It has the 6 selections on it, and it also has an unusually long antenna. I don't know why you'd need to be 50 feet away from your machine when you're changing games, but it's there in case you need it. So you may be able to see on this one we have the arrow here, and the arrow, if you find these on any of your connectors, will actually be at number 1 and letter A. So it'll be at the beginning of your board, which is the power side. So plugged in here we have a main board in slot 1, then we have Dreamcast, then we have Saturn, then we have an MVS, and then I normally have the Sega STV plugged into this last one here. So it may look like a bit of a mess here right now, but basically what all of this extra stuff is I had a problem when I was hooking up all 6 buttons. I only needed that for the Saturn and for the main board, but for some reason, no matter how I did it, you could not have all 6 buttons hooked up at one time to both boards. And the 6 buttons didn't go through the switcher. Buttons 5 and 6 would not work through the switcher. So what I came up with is it's kind of a Frankenstein invention here. But you can see I have this little Molex connector so that I can just disconnect this if I need to take the door away. But on the door I've got these 2 little switches, and so you can flip them up if you want buttons 5 and 6 to go to the main board, and you can flip them down if you want it to go to the Saturn board. A little weird looking, I know, but it works pretty well. Then on the other side I've got just quick disconnects onto each separate thing, so it can be taken apart fairly easily. It's not quite as messy as it looks initially. So that was a quick introduction into JAMMA, sort of basically how it works, and also a quick look at my 6-in-1 JAMMA switcher. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out my other Arcade Basics videos, and thanks for watching.